Hey, hope you're having a great day, and welcome to the Mental Game Podcast. I'm your host, Sam Brief, here today with a great episode. And I know I always say that, but today is capital G great, because I'm welcoming on a good friend of mine and a 7-year NFL veteran, Jerry Azumah. So for Zoom, as he's known affectionately, the story of his NFL career started on a kind of wacky note. He was one of the best running backs in college football history. He rushed for over 6,000 yards at the University of New Hampshire under future Oregon and NFL coach Chip Kelly. But after being a stud running back, Zoom wasn't drafted as a running back. In fact, the Bears took him in the 5th round as a defensive back. They said, "Hey, dude, super successful college running back, we're going to move you to defense. And not only do you have to transition into the NFL, but you have to do it from the opposite side of everything you've learned to date." Needless to say, that was really hard. And needless to say, a young Jerry Azumah was a little stubborn at first. But then he locked in. He dug deep. He studied. And he turned himself into a Pro Bowler and an all-pro player. The lessons that Zoom relied on as he dug deep, you're going to hear from in the next 45 minutes or so, and they are so valuable. It's stuff that people like us, who don't play for 7 years in the NFL, can really use in our day-to-day lives. And I've been blessed to have a front row seat to Zoom's incredible mental focus. I've worked with him for years now on his podcast called To the Points with Jerry Azumah, where he and I break down NFL matchups and go through the X's and O's of football. So after years of that, and years of talking, this quarterback versus this quarterback and who's going to win the Monday night game, I said, Zoom, we got to talk some real stuff. We got to get you on my podcast and dive deep on your mental game. So that's exactly what we've got. It's time for the mental game with Jerry Azumah in 3, 2, 1. Zoom, welcome.
Thank you very much for having me.
Well, I got to start with this and what's timely, because you were just nominated. Your name is on the ballot for the National Football Foundation College Hall of Fame. So
incredible.
Might talk to you at this time next year, and it might be Jerry Azumah Hall of Famer. How does that feel?
It feels incredible. Long time coming, but I'm extremely proud that I am on the ballot. There's been some whispers over the past couple of years about me possibly getting onto that ballot, but here we are, and I'm really excited to try to move forward and imprint my name into that Hall of Fame.
Well, you rushed for over 6,000 yards in college, so yeah, I'd say it's about damn time.
Yeah.
As someone who's never been nominated for any sort of Hall of Fame, I'm curious, how do you find out? Take me through the notification process. Yeah.
So, I was in a lot of discussions and talks with my university, talking to the athletic director, who's been extremely helpful with this whole process. And, I got a call from the UNH, and they said that they're going to submit an application for me to possibly, be placed onto the ballot. And they sent me over the application. We just kind of went through it together. And we made it so that, possibly everything was checked off, all the accolades and awards and things like that were present. So packaged it all really nice, submitted the application, and then we heard back immediately that I was pretty much placed on the ballot. So like I said before, it was a few years where they were saying, you might be on the ballot, but I was just waiting for those years. But now it finally came to fruition.
Well, it is, like I said, about damn time. I mean, not only are you someone with great numbers, you have left a legacy on the field, but also, by all accounts, you did everything with class. You give back to the community, so you check all those boxes. So I don't have a vote, but I would vote for you if I did.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. It's such an honor to actually just be named, on that ballot with so many incredible athletes. So just that alone, I'm so thankful and appreciative.
It's great to be on the ballot, but come on, let's get you in the Hall of Fame. All right?
It's time to get us in.
All right. Well, we'll find out soon. For now, I'm ready to reflect, and I've wanted to have you on this podcast for a while, Zoom. It's funny because you and I have spent hours and hours together in a Zoom room like this with our microphones like this, talking about the NFL on your podcast, To the Points.
Right.
But now it's my show. Now we're not talking X's and O's of football and quarterbacks and all that. We're talking the mental game. And I know you've had to be locked in on the mental game for your whole 7-year pro career and after that. So, Zoom, if you don't mind, I'd love to go right now to just the moment you joined the league and started working in the day-to-day of the NFL. I'm really curious, what was more of a jarring adjustment, the size, strength, and speed of the NFL, or the mental pressure that you get hammered with right away?
So for me, it was very interesting because, like, as you know, I was a running back my whole entire life until I got drafted by the Chicago Bears and I switched my defensive back. So just that alone was a really big adjustment starting off. So when I got drafted, well, actually, let me back up. Before I got drafted, I was the NFL was lurking. I got a lot of different requests to go out and work out, and I got a request to go to a all-star game, played in the Maui, Hooter Bowl, and then I went over to the combine. So when I got to the combine, I worked out as a running back, and continued to just try to be the best athlete that I could and prepare myself for the NFL draft. So leading up to all of that stuff, I mean, mentally I had to be locked in. And I was locked in as a running back because that's one thing that like I did the best and did the most. And I didn't really think about being a defensive back until after the combine. A gentleman came up to me. He was actually with the Chicago Bears at the time. He was a scout, and he said, you know what, there's a little buzz going on that you could potentially be a defensive back at the next level. Now, I didn't really think too much of that, but a lot of scouts started to come to me and work me out as a defensive back at that time. So I said, you know what, let me start to backpedal and let me get with the defensive back coach at UNH because I don't know anything that I'm doing right now, but there is a request, throughout some of the scouts in the NFL that I could possibly be drafted as a defensive back.
What was your reaction at the time? Because I'm thinking, okay, I'm Jerry Azumah, running back. I go 1,000 yards rushing 4 seasons in a row. You got this guy telling me I'm going to be a defensive back. Like, well, what the hell?
Yeah. I fought it. I definitely fought it. I just didn't understand it. I won the Walter Payton Award as the top, offensive player in the nation.
Yeah, so that's a running back, not a defensive back.
Absolutely. So I really didn't think too much about that until they started to come back to me. And I said, well, wait a minute. I might have to start to adjust my mind a little bit and welcome this because it's going to be, it could possibly be a reality of mine to get into the NFL. So, as the combine went and I did my running back drills and things like that, I had a couple of pro days, scout days. I went to BC's pro day because they were the biggest school that was in the area. So all the scouts were there and I did all my running back drills like I knew I would do. And then one guy comes over to me and he says, you know what, there's a buzz going on in the NFL that you could possibly be a defensive back. And I want to send you through some DB drills just to see like how you do. Now, when he said that to me, I was like, I don't want to do these drills because I don't want to put anything on film and I'm not familiar with doing these drills. And he's like, we just want to see you move. We want to see you react to certain drills. It's going to be informal, so nothing's going to be on film. So you don't have to worry about that stuff. But we just want to see how you move. So it took it was about 10 minutes, the workout. And I just did simple DB drills, backpedal breaks and things like that. And the guy came over to me. He was a Chicago Bears scout at the time. And he said, we'll be in touch. And it was actually Phil Emery, who was an area scout for the Chicago Bears, turned GM, after Lovie Smith. So he was very instrumental in drafting me and making me a defensive back.
How did it feel to do those drills? I feel like for someone, especially you were still young at the time, lower 20s, I would imagine you being kind of stubborn. But I mean, hey, it's the Chicago Bears asking you to do something, so you do it, right?
Exactly. And like you said, I mean, I was apprehensive at first. I didn't want to do that, and I didn't want to put things on tape, to make me look in a lesser light. I wanted to make sure that I put the most efficient and effective tape out there, and by doing so, I knew that I had to do running back drills because that was what I was great at. So doing something that was totally different was a bit of a shock, but as time went on with that process, I knew that possibly I could be a defensive back. So I started to focus in mentally and physically to get myself adjusted to possibly being ready to work out more as a defensive back.
How uncomfortable was that for you mentally to
Yeah,
actually accept that and know, hey,
yeah.
not only am I going to go to the NFL, it's going to be, bigger, faster, stronger, tougher,
Hmm.
but I have to do it as a different position on the other side of the
Right,
ball.
right. For me, it was one of the most difficult adjustments that I had to overcome. Running forward and running backwards are two totally different things, and then trying to do that at the next level against some of the greatest wide receivers that have ever played the game is it just adds a little bit more difficult to the whole process. So mentally, I knew that I would have to make some adjustments. And it wasn't easy. It was probably one of the hardest things that I had to do was switch my mindset to do something that I was extremely great at. And I knew I was good, and everybody around me knew I was good. And I got awards for doing what I did, to something that was just totally brand new. I had no clue what I was really doing. I didn't really know how to see the ball, the game from that point of view. So there was a lot of different small adjustments that I had to make that turned big later on. But those are all those things that I had to do to kind of get over the hump. And mentally, I just had to lock in. So I got together with a lot of people that obviously played the position, that were familiar with the position. And I just started to just put myself in the process of, you know what, you're going to be a defensive back. And these are all the defensive things that you need to address and do to be a successful DB at the next level. So I started right away. I mean, when Phil Emery shook my hand and he said, there's buzz going on in the NFL that you could possibly be a defensive back, I just switched my mind frame from saying, you know what, this is something I don't want to do to this is a reality. And if I want to get to the next level, then I'm going to have to make some adjustments mentally to figure out how to stay sharp, how to stay confident as well, and just be productive.
It sounds like this made you sharper mentally. I mean, you're talking about, calling up guys who played DB,
Mhm.
studying the game from a defensive perspective, really learning it.
Yeah.
You correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know if you would have been that diligent had you been drafted as a running back. You could show up
Hmm.
cocky. Oh yeah, I'm a
Right.
running back. I'm gonna crush it in the NFL like I did in
Right.
college. So, do you think it sharpened your mental game?
It definitely sharpened my mental game. I was watching. There was several different aspects of being a defensive back, and things that you have to do. The number one thing that I had to do was physically get my body ready to be a defensive back. So mentally, I had to say to myself, okay, my workouts have to change, my diet has to change, my body complexion has to change. All these things have to change, and these are things that I normally wouldn't do and I wasn't used to. But if I was going to make that transition at the next level, I would have to get comfortable, being uncomfortable, so to speak. So it took a lot of different people to basically make me who I am today. Um, Starting with several coaches, back at the college level, um, along with strength training and things like that, and then moving on to the pros. So it was very difficult mentally, but I knew that I had to focus. I knew I had to lock in, and I knew that I could eventually get over the hump. I believed in myself and my physical talents, and just me as a football player. And I just took that mentality to the defensive side, to something that I just wasn't used to. And it was a big transition. And it was a lot. I asked for a lot of help, and coaches coached me extremely hard to get me ready, because you have to understand, it was a span of time that between like just several months. You know what I'm saying? This wasn't like years on years on years. This was just several weeks to, several months, where I had to be good enough and confident enough in my abilities as a defensive back to make it translate to once I get to the pros to go into that situation and make an impact.
It feels like it would already be so nerve-wracking to go from, star running back at the University of New Hampshire to Chicago Bear and be expected to perform in the NFL.
Right.
Then you have this monkey wrench thrown on you. Now we all know one of the constant things in life is change, and this was just a huge change. But Zuma, I'm hearing that you really embraced asking for help, which is something I think our society doesn't embrace enough. So how important was asking for help?
It was very important. The good thing about that is that I had people that wanted to help me. And I had a lot of people that were in my corner, from my parents to my really good friends, to the coaching staff, to athletic trainers. Everyone wanted to see me succeed at the next level, and they were willing to do whatever it took to get me to get to that level. And like I said, it was a lot of work, and it was a lot of focus, especially attention to the details as a defensive back, and a lot of hours of just not only training, but watching film. And watching film was a huge thing, and watching film with guys that have actually done it. I got together with a lot of defensive backs, and we would just have defensive back, talks and meetings about what we saw when we're watching film and things like that. So collectively, it wasn't just me. It was a whole group of people that basically believed in me, that trusted me, that worked with me, that challenged me to get me to that got me prepared for the next level.
Everyone needs coaches in life. And I mean, you've had
Absolutely.
hundreds and hundreds of coaches. So tell me one or more than one who really had an impact on you at this time.
Yeah.
I'm talking right when you got drafted.
Yeah, right when I got drafted, Vance Bedford was our defensive DB coach. And he was a coach at Michigan, and he coached this guy by the name of Charles Woodson, the Hall of Famer. So he coached them when he won basically the Heisman. And then now I'm Jerry Azumah, star running back, Division I AA, going into the pros as a defensive back. And he's like, he was on me extremely tough and extremely hard. He was like, I'm going to be on you, because I know that you have to be prepared to go out there and, possibly play right away. There's no redshirt freshman year in the pros. Usually you go in and you make you contribute right away. And that's what I had to do. And I knew that I had to do that basically on special teams. But I also, since I was drafted, I also knew that I would have to participate as a defensive back. So Vance Bedford really put it to me. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it was a lot of tough love, I should say. And I understood where he was coming from, because he had to get me ready. He had to get me prepared for the next level.
At what point did you feel actually prepared physically?
I would say it actually took a couple of years. It wasn't right away. It wasn't the first season or the second season. I would say after the third season is when I became comfortable at saying, okay, I understand what being a defensive back is, and I know how to go out there and make plays. And then also you have to understand that I was playing with an incredible defense. We had Tommy Harris, Lance Briggs, Mike Brown, Peanut Tillman. We had a lot of great talent on that football field, and they were making plays left and right, and you wanted to be the next person to make those plays. So I knew that I had to, one, get into my playbook and get with the coach to make sure that I was ready to go when my name was called. And, after a couple of seasons, my name was called regularly, and I had to get out there and perform.
Zoom, there is such a life lesson in there, because people try so many things, myself included, try so many things and might be bad at it the first time and go, oh, that's just not for me, right? Maybe you go on a run and you're gassed at the end. You're like, oh, no, I'm bad at that. I'm going to give up. Mm-hmm. I'm hearing from you that it took 3 years playing every day in the NFL before you even felt comfortable as a defensive back.
Right.
So you stuck with it. You were patient. That being said, how tough were those first few years of not feeling totally comfortable?
I mean, the adjustment was insane. I mean, there's such a big leap from college to the pros. And then obviously getting into the pros and not being, used to a position that you got drafted to do. It just doesn't really work that way. And then arguably, I think playing defensive back is the hardest position on the football field. And then you're going against the best talent, in the world, the likes of Randy Moss, T.O., Marvin Harrison. Like, these are just guys, on Steve Smith, just on a weekly basis. It just doesn't stop. I'm going against the best of the best of the best. So backing up, one person that was really instrumental for me moving forward was my father. Because there were certain times where I said, you know what, I don't know if I could do this. I questioned myself. And I had to lean on my father to kind of dig me out of that rut that I was in. And it was interesting because my father was like, look, they drafted you. You know what I'm saying? They could have easily drafted somebody else. They could have easily drafted a defensive back, but they chose you and they believe in you. So you definitely have to believe in yourself and focus in on what you have to do to be positive and to be focused and to go out there and make plays. So it was a lot of conversations with my father, but my father was the one that was like, you know what? They put you in this situation. It's time to deliver, and it's time to make your presence known.
Is he the one that really made you believe in yourself?
Yeah, I mean, backing up even more, back in high school.
Back it up, baby.
We were we were a powerhouse football team in high school, St. Peter Marion, and we won states pretty much every year. We won our division, and Owen Kilcoyne, he was our head coach, old school. This is back in the 90s, so early 90s. So he was old school, and he always played like the upperclassmen. And I always believed in myself. I always knew that I was good. And I always knew that I wanted to be on the football field. And I felt like I was better than, most people. Like, you should have that feeling. You should feel that you are the best on the football field. But it was a hard lesson because even though I was good, there was still no room for me. Obviously, I was a running back. We had really good running backs that were upperclassmen. So they had to finish out before I got my opportunity to step in and play. And it was a hard lesson learned because I said, you know what? Well, I just got to wait on the bench. And here I am just watching these guys play and me feeling like I can contribute at that level and possibly even better. But the way the system is set up, the upperclassmen are going to play, and I just have to wait my turn until I finally get my turn. I can open it up and let everybody know exactly what I'm capable of doing. But that was another hard lesson learned. And my father was instrumental in keeping me all together as well, because at a certain point in time, I said to myself that, well, maybe I just don't want to do this anymore. Why? Like, if I'm good and the coach isn't putting me in, then why would I force myself to stay on the bench and watch these guys play? Even though we were winning, we had a lot of success. I knew that I was just too good to be on the bench. And I felt like the coaches do that too, but rules were rules. And I had to abide by those rules. And I had to basically say, you know what? You have to wait your turn. Like, that's just what it is. So there was a point in time where I talked to my father and I said, you know, and I don't know if I really want to do this. Maybe we should move schools or, switch situations. But my father was like, look, you made a commitment to this team. You made a commitment to yourself that you were going to, stick with it. This is just one of those tough lessons that you have to get through. And this is one of those obstacles that you have to just overcome. Your time will come. Just make sure that you're extremely prepared for that time and that opportunity to come. And we all knew that it was going to happen. And I as a kid, I just wanted it to happen right away. So the waiting game was extremely hard for me. But my father was very instrumental in kind of putting me in my place mentally to say, you know what, you have to stay strong. You have to stay committed. Continue to do the things that you do to make sure that you are prepared. And then once you get that opportunity, you have to pounce all over it and make a great opportunity for yourself once you get that opportunity.
And what a great lesson to hear from your parent, right? You're always supposed to listen to mom and dad first and foremost. And you're lucky, and your future self turned out to be lucky that you actually, you didn't just hear what your father said, you listened.
Right.
And then that clearly paid off in the NFL. So do you think that, did that become baked in? Like, were you then saying those things to yourself in your early years with the Bears?
Yeah. To kind of jump on the process of my father, with the connection that my father and I have, we have a strong bond. You know what I'm saying? Like we spoke a lot, we talked a lot, we bounced ideas off of each other. And also my father was an immigrant. You know, he came to America back in the 70s in search of a better life and then brought my whole family over. You know, so, you know, understanding like the struggles that he went through, I was like, this is kind of a walk in the park. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know if I would have done what he did was with making the jump to go from Ghana, West Africa to the United States. You know, so me just playing football was just kind of easy, you know, in the grand scheme of things. So he was very instrumental in my my upbringing and basically making sure that I stayed sharp mentally and stayed sharp, making sure that I was able to focus as well on anything that I did, not just football, but like academics as well, which was very strong in the Azumah household. You had to be academically on point, you know, and moving forward in the right direction at all points.
It's amazing how those stories can really orient you, right? And
Yeah.
suddenly learning how to play defensive back for the Chicago Bears, like that's a first world issue, right? What your
Yeah.
father went
Right.
through, moving all the way across the world,
Mm-hmm.
you know, starting a family in this new land, like that's life.
Yeah.
That's a hard
Yes.
adjustment, right?
Yes. Yes. So, and I understood that, you know, I talked to my mother also. I have a sister. So we were tight because it was just us. You know, we didn't have, you know, all this family or friends or things like that around us to kind of support us. The support system came from just us, you know. So my father was very instrumental. My mother also, you know, we talked as a family and they kept me grounded. They kept me safe. They kept me, they supported the things that I love to do. So without them, I don't know exactly where I would be, especially now. But my father always instilled in me that I need to stay sharp mentally. And you know, when football started to happen, you know, and I was like thrust into being a defensive back, you know, those things that he just kind of like put into my brain still were there. But it got kind of lost because I didn't have to bring it out. But now I had to bring it out at that point in time. And my father definitely let me understand and let me know that it's still there. You have to bring it out. And you still have a focus on you still have a strong focus on yourself as well. And you can become anything that you want to be, but you have to stay mentally focused. And I understood that. I had mental focus. It was there, but it got lost because it was in transition of doing something that I wasn't used to. I just had to bring it out in a different way. And my father helped me bring that out and always reminded me that it's there. You just have to be strong and focus on what you're doing right in front of you, and you're going to be okay.
It's awesome. I think of the link between the lessons from your father, your mother, like you listening, and then, oh crap, the Bears want me to be defensive back. All right, I'm going to focus the hell up. I'm going to
Right.
call everyone I know who's played defensive back, and I'm going to
Mhm.
learn this position. And bam, you made it.
Yeah, it happened fast. You know, it's like I won the Walter Payton Award, and then I went to the combine, and I was like feeling good about myself, and then all of a sudden it was like, you could possibly be a defensive back. So it happened really fast. So I was able to really have a really strong support system around me, and that was instrumental in making me who I am at the professional level.
You mentioned some of those wideouts. I heard
Yeah,
Randy Moss. I heard T.O. I heard
Hall of
Steve
Famer,
Smith.
Hall of Famer.
Yeah, and then we're gonna have Jerry Azumah Hall of Famer soon enough. So, you know, I hear this phrase a lot, that welcome to the league moment. Like
Yeah,
lining up against those guys feels like a big time welcome to the league moment. But
yeah.
for you, if you could pick one, take me to the welcome to the NFL moment.
Welcome to the NFL moment. So I immediately got onto special teams. So I wasn't a returner right away, even though I did that my whole life. They wanted to have me go down there and hit people and blow people up. So I was on kickoff. I was on kickoff return, but I was blocking. I was on punt return, field goal. I was on all the special teams. And we were playing the Chiefs. It was our first game. And I remember flying down on a kick. It was a beautiful kick, directional kick to the right. And I was going down and I saw the returner the whole way. I saw the defenders. I was like, I am going to blow this guy up. And I am running down there as fast as I can. And the returner caught it, and he took a couple of steps to my right to make me move right. And then he came left. And as I turned, I don't know who it was, but it was someone that it was probably a linebacker that knocked me into the next world. I was on my back in a hurry, and I had no clue what the hell happened. And I said to myself, oh snap, this is the NFL. I don't know what just happened. Here I am thinking that I'm flying down there. I'm super fast. I have a lot of space, and I'm going to blow this guy up. And this guy, the returner, took 2 steps to the right, cut to the left, and then all of a sudden a blindside block hit me, and I was just knocked out into the next world. When I woke up basically and got freshened back up, I was like, oh snap, this I don't know what just happened, but that was my welcome to the NFL moment. That hit right there.
Yeah, here I am thinking your welcome to the NFL moment would be lining up and looking at a dude. No, it's getting absolutely pummeled by a dude.
It's getting absolutely crushed by someone. It was like it was my first return, my first punt return, punt going down there to try to make a big time play, and I thought I had it. Because the ball was coming to me, the returner was coming to me, everything was happening the way it was supposed to happen. The returner took 2 steps towards me, and I was like, oh yeah, this is it. And then he went left, and then I don't know what happened after that. I was on my back. But when I got up, I was like, oh yeah, like we're in the NFL. I forgot. I forgot for a quick second.
Yeah, it doesn't start till you get punched in the face, right? Or right. Absolutely leveled into another dimension.
Absolutely leveled. So that was my welcome to the NFL moment. I have no clue who that was. No clue. But you find out very fast who like what these people can do on the football field. You might not have never heard where they come from or what college they came from, but if they're on that football field, they're there for a reason, and they make their impact felt immediately.
Yeah, I think about watching some of the best players in college, and you were one of those guys, 1,000-yard season, 4 years in a row at New Hampshire, right? And you look at these guys in college, the Reggie Bushes, the Saquon Barkleys, like I'm just thinking running backs here, and on breakaway runs in college, like they're by themselves by the 20, 30, 20, 10 touchdown, right? They're by themselves. In the NFL, there's always a guy tracking them.
There's always
they get shoved out of bounds at the 1 yard line.
That's right. I mean, it's the best of the best of the best, the cream of the crop, and like I said, you might not know that person across from you. You might not know their name or anything like that, but you'll find out very fast why they're in the NFL and why they're on that football field. And it's the best. It's great. It's great competition. If you love competition, you're right at home.
And the competitions are intense. The competitions are painful, as you learned. So, Zoom, you told me about the mental focus locking into the big picture transition. Okay, I'm going to go from running back to DB, from college to NFL. How do you replicate that 16 times a season for the games? Because at the end of the day, what you put on tape in those 16 days, it's what dictates the next contract and in a lot of ways the rest of your life. So how do you lock in for the games?
That's just something that you kind of have to go through as a professional. You hear people talking about the NFL and the season and the journey and things like that, but you never really understand it until you go through it. And, there's a significant more time being played in the NFL than in college. There's no preseason games in college. College, I think the most games that I played was 11 or 12 games in a season. At the time when I played, it was 16 games plus the 4 preseason games. And then if you make it to, all the way to the Super Bowl, you're looking at 24, 25 games. So that's a lot of football. It's basically 2 seasons put together. And you don't really understand it until you're actually there and present. And I remember my first year, I'm in a whirlwind. I'm trying to figure out how to be a defensive back. I'm trying to figure out how to be really good on special teams, because that's another position that I didn't really play as a person to go down there and like make tackles. I was always the returner, so that was a big transition as well. So all these things, added up. And I knew that I had to figure out ways to kind of slow them down and slow down like what I saw on the football field. So it was a lot of film study. It was a lot of getting with the coaches. It was a lot of practicing after hours, getting with the strength and conditioning coach, because at the time I was heavier. I was a running back and I had to naturally just kind of drop weight. So I got it to probably about 215, 216. But I had to, but my playing weight for defensive back was more like, 205, 203, around that area. So I had to come down in weight as well. So it was a big adjustment for me all the way around.
What would you do pregame? Are you a guy who's listening to music, alone time,
Yeah.
talk to teammates? What was that?
My pregame ritual was pretty simple. Everyone listened to music, and the music that I would listen to was nothing that was like out of the that was out of the ordinary. I mean, it wasn't like crazy rap music or hardcore like metal or anything like that. It was R&B. That was my thing. So I would put my headphones on, as big as these are right here, and I would put on some Maxwell. I would put on some Mary J. Blige.
Mm.
I didn't want my heart pumping. I didn't want that. I didn't want my mind racing. I wanted to be at ease, because I knew that once I took the headphones out and I replaced it with a helmet, that it was going to be physical for the next 60 minutes. And I understood that. So I needed something to kind of just mellow me out, to relax me. And it was always R&B music that put me in such a good mood, to go out there and really hit somebody as hard as I could.
You didn't want your heart pumping. I feel like the average American would think of an NFL player in the locker room, like,
Mm-hmm.
you want your heart racing. Let's go, let's go, let's
Right.
go. So why was it important to have the opposite of that?
Because it allowed me to focus. It allowed me to just calm down, to relax. It allowed me to just kind of go through my process of, okay, I know what I have to do. I'm not in a hurry. I'm not in a rush. The music just leveled me out. It just put me in a really good mood. It put me in a really peaceful like situation and climate. And I knew that I would go out there and it would be a battle. I knew that, like, people are going to get, beat up, people are going to get ran over, plays are going to be made. I knew that the chaos was going to happen, but I had to find some type of moment where I could just be patient and be relaxed and be focused. And being in a locker room, listening to R&B music was that. I know it sounds kind of crazy, and I tell people this, but for me, it mellowed me out so much. And I was able to just kind of lock in on the things that I needed to lock in on and focus and just be at ease and relax.
Everyone needs something, and oftentimes multiple things. It might be the R&B music. For some people, it's reading. For some people, it's art, exercise. I mean, something that gets you in your zone. And that
Right.
was Mary J. Blige.
Mary J. Blige, she got me in the zone. Maxwell, he got me in the zone. Like, it was just R&B cuts. That's all I wanted to hear. And it really put my mind at ease, because I knew what was going to happen. So I couldn't be out there listening to, like, Wu-Tang and DMX. Like, my heart would be, I would have been sweating. I would have been exhausted before the game. So I needed to find a way to just relax myself and relax my mind. And it was always just R&B music.
Oh, I love it. Oh, we're gonna jam out. We're gonna jam out next time we hang. Hey, Zoom. So we're gonna have to do, of course, I think a part two and a part three, because I want to
Yes.
focus on the meat of your playing career with the Bears, and
Yeah.
also on your really successful transition into life as a family man, as a media man,
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
a philanthropy man post career. So
Yes.
we're gonna have more episodes with Jerry Azumah. Do not fear, listeners. But just to cap off this part one with you, Zoom,
Mhm.
I love ending podcasts with this, and I can tell based on what you're talking about, you're going to have something great for us. So please leave me and leave us with a piece of advice.
A piece of a piece of advice. Um, so for me, I was always a hyper kid. I was always an active kid. I was running around. My first soccer practice, the ball was rolled to me. I picked it up. I started running and started hitting people, and they were like, "Okay, let's switch this up and let's play football. Let's try that." But for me, it was always the advice is just to be patient and just let things happen the way that they're supposed to happen, but also be prepared. Be prepared. So that was my father's number one thing with me is to just be prepared in the classroom. Make sure that everything, all your assignments are done. Make sure that you're well read. Be prepared. Get to where you have to get to on time. Be prepared. Practice. You have to have your helmet. Your shoulder pads, your gear. Be prepared. Going into meeting rooms, you have to have knowledge of your playbook. Be prepared. Everything that you do in life, you have to make sure that you are well prepared in order to execute. That's just the main. That's just it. That's the main thing. Be prepared in order to execute. And that was something that my father always preached to me. So if I were to give any type of advice, it would be to make sure that you're well prepared to execute what you have to get done.
I'm hearing the double P's. Be prepared and be patient.
And be patient.
So be prepared to execute. But if you're
Yes.
not executing 100% right away, be patient. You
Be
were
patient.
patient those first couple of years with the Bears, and you are thanking yourself for it
That's
right now. So Jerry Azumah, you are a wealth of knowledge, of experience. I can't wait to continue the conversation.
Oh, me
But for
too. It's
now,
going to be exciting.
dude, I just want to say thanks and congrats on getting on the ballot. But
Thank
let's
you.
get you chosen on the
Yes.
ballot before the
Yes.
next one.
That's right. I'm ready. I can't wait. I'm excited.
Me too. All right. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you, Sam. I appreciate it.
And back here in the studio with you, awesome insight from Jerry Azumah. Be prepared and be patient if it's not all perfect right away. I mean, I just think of the shock and disgust I would have if I was so good in college at being a running back. So good that, flash forward a few decades, I'm being nominated as a Hall of Famer, and then this team wants to draft me as a defensive back. I'd be disgusted. But I got to give Zoom credit for embracing it, studying it, and what a great NFL career for Jerry Azumah. I mean what I say. Parts 2 and 3 will come. I want to hear more about the meat and potatoes of his career with the Bears, and then life after football with Jerry Azumah, where he's in the media, he's a father, he's a husband, he's a philanthropist, really all over the place. So this was just part 1, and I've been Sam Brief, and as always, this is the Mental Game Podcast. So please take care of yourself and of others, and I'll talk to you next time. Adios from Chicago.